And it came to pass in the 3rd year of the Desert War that Paul Muad'Dib lay alone in the cave of birds, beneath the Quizwa hangings of an inner cell. And he lay, as one dead, caught up in the revelation of the water of life, is being translated beyond the boundaries of time by the poison that gives life. Thus was the prophecy made true that the Lisan al-Gaib might be both dead and alive. Collected Legends of Arrakis by Princess Irulan. Welcome to Reading Dune, a podcast where we read Dune by Frank Herbert and talk about it. If you're a Fremen or a first-time reader, this podcast is for you. My name is Caleb Pauls.
And I'm Evan Diaz.
And together, we are going to read some Dune.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, I don't know why I did that voice. I just kind of like went for the whole announcer thing, and it just
kind
of happened.
All right, into it.
This chapter, bro.
Dude.
Oh my gosh.
Dude.
All right, so here we are, chapter 45. I got this email today from Mr. Ross Garrett. I'll read it for you. My dear illustrious Spice Forwards, I began reading Dune when you started this podcast, just like Evan. I didn't know anything about it other than sand and worms. I'm currently up to Heretics of Dune, and I followed these stories to a place I never would have imagined. I'm a senior English teacher in Southeast Texas with a degree in English and master's in library and sciences. Suffice to say, I love books, and I could not believe it took me so long to discover this incomparable series. Chapter 45 is probably my favorite chapter of Dune because it really is the climax of the novel. When Paul takes the water of life and confirms that he is indeed Khwisrah Haderach, everything changes in the story. Nothing is ever the same with Paul afterwards. And the push to the end of the novel is one of the best sequences I've ever read. So this is awesome. All right, it continues. To me, however, one of the best parts of this chapter is the dynamic between Chani and Jessica. By the way, confirmed by the voice recording of Frank Herbert, it's pronounced Chani, not Chani. So
I hate that. Frank
Chani.
made a mistake. Frank made a mistake is what I'm saying.
Jessica, who at first tries to resist the bond between Chani and Paul, now realizes how integral she is in the going forward. Jessica starts to see more of herself in Chani, and that bond and dynamic between Paul, Jessica, and Chani is one of the best parts of the novel, in my opinion. I truly hope you continue to read more Dune. I want to see you get to God Emperor. I love Evan's reactions to the story, and I think he's going to lose it when he gets that far. Thank you both for doing this podcast. You're a huge reason why I love these novels so much. Coming from a teacher, you both are doing a phenomenal job with literary analysis.
Wow.
And I've already turned a few students onto our series. Keep up the good work. I look forward to it every week. Stay spicy.
Nice.
Ross, that was the nicest email anybody has ever written to us. And this happens to be your favorite chapter. So I hope you enjoy this very much. And if you're in Mr. Garrett, yeah, again, pronunciation's hard for me.
Garrett, see that.
Mr. Garrett students, hi, welcome. We're happy you're here. All right, let's dig in. And if you want to miss your favorite moments, email readingdune@gmail.com. Okay, moving on. This quote, Evan, thoughts? What do you got?
I sat down to read and opened the book to the chapter, and I read the quote, and then I closed the book, and I immediately texted Caleb oh my gosh. Because this is the first time Princess Irulan just went straight to the point. This is what just happened. And you're and you get into the chapter where is it? I need to see this moment of confirmation,
Yeah. And do we find it at the end?
I think we do. I mean, yes, we do. We have, if you're not reading the book and you're just listening to us, and then you're not allowed to be mad about spoilers at the beginning of our episodes. That's just how it goes.
That's very true. If you've gone this far, you should just read the book.
I'm
Okay.
saying.
So last time on Reading Dune, boom, 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 boom. So Paul Muad'Dib becomes the leader of all Fremen, but he didn't need to kill Stilgar to do that, which is great. Also, Gurney and Jessica reconnected, but of course, in classic Dune fashion, Gurney tries to kill Jessica because he thought that she was the traitor. Paul told him no. Gurney repented, and then Gurney insisted that Paul kill him. Paul didn't.
Right.
Jessica then repented to Paul, saying, marry whoever you want. Paul's prescience did not alert him to the fact that Gurney might try to kill his own mother. So now, in the final stage of the war started, Paul knew he needed to do one more thing. He had to take the water of life to see if he really was the Kwisatz Haderach, the shortening of the way. Okay, that was great. So we start on the dunes of Arrakis. It's still dark. A thopter comes flying in and lands, and out pops Chani. So notice how the Reverend Mother Jessica doesn't come in a thopter, but Chani gets a thopter.
That's right, Queen.
She walked alone on the sand toward the cave of birds. All she's thinking is, why did he summon me? He told me before that I must remain in the south with Alia and little Leto. She leaped onto the barrier rock, and then Fremen popped out, and they followed him up to the entrance of the cave. There was a hooded Fremen, a Fedaykin lieutenant, Othium. He continued to beckon her forward. Hurry, he hissed through his mouth filter. Chani quickened up the pace of the rocks as the pre-dawn light started to creep up on the horizon. The Harkonnens had been more and more desperate, and now was not the chance getting caught in the sunlight. They emerged into a narrow side entrance of the Cave of the Birds. Othium pressed past her, saying, follow me. They ran through passages, through doors, more passages, through hangings, and finally into a Sayadina waiting room. So in this room, and there's rugs, and there's cushions, and there's linens on the floor, and there's woven hangings of a red hawk.
Right, but it's not the way that Chani, I don't like Chani. It's not the way that she remembered it, right? Because they changed stuff, and because she keeps noticing the differences.
Yeah, this room has been changed because there's somebody in here.
Right.
And in there is the Reverend Mother, Jessica, sitting alone, directly opposite the entrance. She looks up at Chani with the inward stare that made the uninitiated tremble. Othium pressed his palms together, bowing, I have brought Chani, and quickly left. So Reverend Mother Jessica, not knowing how to start this awkward conversation, starts with small talk. How's my grandson? Chani, of course, hates this. Where is Paul? She thinks. So, of course, she just answered, right? He's healthy and happy, my mother. I left him with Alia in care of Hera. At the sound of my mother, Jessica also hates this. But instead of cutting to the chase, her and Chani continue small talk. Something about a kerchief, something about Alia. Chani's at this point getting anxious. She was brought in a motherfucking thopter. Not a worm. They literally used precious fuel to get her there. Chani tries to bring up Paul in casual conversation to ask if he had any new battles. Jessica just answers that Raban is lightening the loads of those of the villagers out of fear of the Fremen. And Chani's like, okay, yeah, that's what Paul said would happen. Jessica remains stiff. Chani's internally freaking out because Jessica is still frozen at the mention of Paul's Fremen name, right? Because Muad'Dib. Right. What the hell happened to Paul? Jessica then wishes they were in the oasis of the south. And Chani remarks, yeah, it's nice. It's cool. There's much grief there, though. And Jessica says, grief is the price of victory. Chani's calm on the outside, but there's a storm raging on the inside.
She's just get to it.
Is Jessica preparing her for some sort of grief? Chani says how the women were jealous that she was being summoned to the north. And then Jessica informs Chani that she summoned her. Chani can now feel her heart hammering in her chest. Paul didn't summon her. Her mother-in-law, who doesn't really like her, summoned her. Chani kept her voice even as she said, the message was signed Muad'Dib. Jessica says the deception was necessary, and she signed it in the presence of all his lieutenants. Jessica, at this point in the conversation, is actually really proud of Chani and how she handled this conversation. She kept calm, even knowing something is very, very wrong.
Good job, Chani.
At the slightest tone of resignation crept into Chani's voice. Now say the thing that must be said. Jessica now finally says the whole thing we've been waiting for this whole time. You're needed here to help me revive Paul.
Uh-oh.
Then Jessica's internal monologue started breathing a sigh of relief. Revive. Yeah, that was the right word. She knows Paul's alive, but he's not dead. Chani took a quick moment to calm herself. What is it I may do? Chani says this calmly, but again is totally ready to throttle Jessica.
Right, because she just said, your husband's kind of dead, but not like fully dead, so we got to undeadify him real quick, and I need your help.
And Jessica suspects the Harkonnens have somehow poisoned Paul, right? And she's grateful she found him here, because the untrained eye, he would be dead. And Chani is like, okay, hearing this keeps her cool. She knows that the Reverend Mother can fix poison problems. Cool. But then again, he can fix those poison problems. Why is Chani here?
Right.
Jessica just says, Chani, you may find this difficult to believe, but I do not precisely know why I sent for you. It was an instinct, a basic intuition. The thought came unbidden. Send for Chani. So I think this is like one of the Reverend Mothers deep in her head. There was like, okay, you don't know what to do. Send for the girl.
Yeah.
Send for the Fremen girl. I've done all I know how to do, Jessica says. But it's so far beyond what I usually supposed at all. You could find it probably difficult to imagine, yet I failed. Chani asks, well, is Gurney the traitor? Like, obvious one. Did we check him? Jessica just says no. So Chani stands up. Take me to him. Jessica stands, turns around, goes to the hangings in another room. Chani quickly follows to find Paul laying on a pad on the far wall of a small rock room. And above him, a single glow shined on his face. His chest was covered with a black robe, but his bare arms were stretched along his sides. He basically looked dead. There was no visible movement to him at all.
Right.
Chani suppressed. Suppressed.
You're a grown man.
You're welcome. The desire to run forward. Her first thoughts were of little Leto. Then she looked at Jessica and understood what Jessica must have went through as her man was threatened by death. And how that forced her to consider everything she must do to save her own son. Like, oh, that's why you took the water of life. You were trying to protect Paul because I know exactly how you feel now. Okay. Chani reached out and grasped Jessica's hand. Jessica squeezed Chani's hand tightly. He lives. Tender. I assure you he lives. But there's only a tiny thread of life. Other the leaders started to mumble that it was time to give up his water to the tribe. Chani asked, how long has it been like this? She moves closer to Paul. 3 weeks. I spent a week trying to revive him. And then there were meetings and arguments, investigations, and then I sent for you. So Chani's now standing over Paul's body, looking down on his little peach fuzz he's got growing.
Little 18-year-old beard.
Yeah. Well, still some scruff. Chani asks if he needs food or water. Jessica says no, his body doesn't need food yet. So Chani asks, okay, what do the Fedaykin believe? She says if Fedaykin believe that Paul is in a sacred trance, gathering his holy powers before the final battles.
Naturally.
Jessica says she allowed this story to spread, but we talked about in the last podcast. How did Paul get this? How did he drown a worm? His lieutenants probably did it. He probably told them this. Oh, I need to gather my holy powers. I need to do this. Right. Chani bent down, getting close to Paul's face. There was something immediately different. The air was around his face was loaded with a scent of spice. So Chani asked, okay, what's his blood look like? What's happening? Is he, maybe he had too much spice? Because says, no, everything's been negative. Cool. Got like 100% Fremen blood. Everything's completely normal. Right. So Chani leans back on her heels. Fear starts to take her. She's studying Paul's face. And then it hits her. She asks if there's a maker there. Jessica responds that there are several, and the ceremony, how each victory in the battle requires a blessing, and each ceremony before a raid. And Chani this says clicks, saying how Paul is usually not at these ceremonies. Jessica nods, thinking how, Paul really does have mixed feelings about the spice drug and what it does to him. He really, maybe that's, huh. Chani then asked for the raw water of a maker. Jessica stiffened at the tone of Chani's voice. This is like, Chani's in full Sayadina mode. She knows what needs to happen.
And it was like she commanded Jessica. She said, go get the water.
And Jessica just did it.
Yeah.
Chani now completely alone with Paul. She's staring at his body, thinking how trying to change the water of life is basically something totally Paul would try. Like, Paul, yeah, you would be dumb enough to do this.
Right.
Jessica came back, kneeled beside Chani, holding a pitcher of the poison, the worm bile. The stench was overpowering. So then Chani dips her finger in the fluid and then held her finger under Paul's nose. Slowly, the skin along the bridge of the nose starts to wrinkle. Slowly, his nostrils flare a little bit. Jessica gasps. Chani then touches her finger to Paul's upper lip, right? And then Paul drew a long, sobbing breath.
And then he said, the tooth.
That would have been so good. The tooth. Jessica is shocked. Wait, what? What is this? Chani, full Sayadina. Be still. You must convert a small, batch of the sacred water quickly. So without question, Jessica lifts up the worm fluid and takes a small sip. As Jessica does this, Paul's eyes fly open. He stares straight upward. I like to think he's just locked eyes with Chani at this point. Then Paul just speaks steadily. It's not necessary for her to change the water. But by this time, Jessica's body has gone into full go mode.
Right.
She's already converted the poison automatically, and the afterglow of the high, she could sense that the same radiance was on Paul.
Ooh.
And then that instant she knew, and she just blurted out, "You drank the sacred water?" Paul answers, "One small drop." Jessica goes off on Paul. "How could you do such a foolish thing?" And Chani just says, "He is your son."
Bam! Salty Chani just like throws a quick-witted insult at Jessica. No big deal.
Jessica whips glance at Chani. "What did you just say?"
Excuse me.
A rare, warm, full of understanding smile touched Paul's lips. And he said, he's just looking at Chani, seeing her, saying, "Here, my beloved." And then, talking to his mom, probably still locking eyes with Chani here, "Listen to her, mother. She knows." Like, okay, what the fuck is happening? All right, here we go. Chani said, "A thing that others can do, he must do." And then Paul tells them what happened. Paul says he knew what he had to do. He took a drop of the water of life, and then his body knew exactly what it needed to do. So he feels like it's instantaneous, right? The poison goes in, he sees what's happening, he changes the molecules, he do the thing, pop, got it. He's like, "Oh yeah, I got this, Mom. That was easy. You think this is hard? People die by this? No way." Paul says, "Your Bene Gesserit proctors speak of the Quizwatch Haderach, but they cannot begin to guess how many places I have been in a few minutes." And he just stops talking. Wait, he's staring at Chani. He has a puzzled look, hits his face, and they realize that Chani wasn't here when he took that first hit of water of Chani. Right. How did you get here? Why are you here? Paul starts to get up, very, very confused. Chani gently rests him back down. "Please, my Usul." Paul says, "I feels really weak." Looks around and he's like, "Wait, how long have I been here? This wasn't where I took the hit. How long have I been here?"
Yeah, what's happening?
Jessica says, 3 weeks, and a bunch of people thought you were dead. Good job, son. I'm really proud of you.
Mm-hmm.
Paul is so confused. But it took just a minute ago, and then Jessica speaks up. 1 moment for you, 3 weeks of fear for me.
Like,
thanks a lot, Paul.
There's like, the funniest thing is like, it's such a like a surreal, otherworldly, like supernatural thing that's going on, but there's still like the most normal family dynamics happening. There's like the girlfriend, the wife, and the mother-in-law, and there's the mother and son, like the same
Banter.
normal human stuff is happening.
That's exactly. So Paul's still confused. He says, it was only one drop, but I converted it. I changed the water of life, Mom. But then before anyone could stop him, Paul dipped his entire hand in the pitcher of worm bile fluid, took his hand back to his mouth, and drank the water. Jessica screams and lurches forward. Paul! At that moment, Paul's hand reaches in, grabs his mom's hand, pulls her down, is face to face with what Frank calls, quote unquote, death's head grin.
What?
And sent his awareness surging over her.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know what death's head grin might be. And maybe I'm reading this 100% wrong, and y'all are just gonna like go after me for misinterpreting this. But this was awesome. The way I saw it in my little brain. Death, just like face to face, just looking death into the face is what Jessica's looking at. Somebody who is not alive and dead. And he sends that terrible grin, that awareness of subconscious through her body. Just like it was last time. But this time it's menacing and it's terrible and it's scary.
Right. I kind of pictured like in that I think it was the first Christian Bale Batman movie where Scarecrow starts talking and his voice is all like it's like all crazy.
Yes.
Like layered and stuff. That's kind of how I pictured Paul talking in this moment.
Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah.
The mutual awareness from Jessica's perspective is not pleasant. Or is it as tender as it was with Alia and the old Reverend Mother, right? They were like, this is crazy, but we're here with you. It's not happening.
Right. Jessica is straight up not having a good time.
But this isn't like as overpowering as the last one was. So that's the only bearable part. Like it's not as fully immersed.
Right.
But there's something else. So yeah, that's the only nice part. But it's still a sharing of consciousness, that sharing of their entire being. The feeling shook her. It weakened her. She cowered in her mind and fearful of her own son, this monster. She heard him as he said out loud, okay, and it's that effect, right? That wah, 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 wah. You speak of a place where you cannot enter. This place which the Reverend Mothers cannot face. Show it to me. In pure terror, Jessica can only shake her head no. Show it to me. She could not escape him. She was bludgeoned by the terrible force of him. And when I read that, it reminded me of the terrible purpose. That thing that's been lurking in the back of his brain forever is now raging at the front. He's beating down his own mom with this. She closed her eyes and went inward. She went deeply inward to the direction that is the dark. Paul's consciousness flowed through and around her and into the darkness. She glimpsed this place dimly before her mind blanketed itself away from the terror. Without knowing why, her whole being trembled at what she'd seen. A region where the wind blew and sparks glared, where rings of light expanded and contracted, where rows of temulescent white shapes flowed over and under and around the lights, driven by the darkness of the wind of nowhere.
What the heck?
All right, so quick thoughts, Caleb thoughts. For sure, Caleb thoughts not real. The movie has not come out yet, but in that scene where the dune pops up, right, and it's the logo, and there's that black circle, and it's like pulsating.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong on this, I'm gonna eat crow. It'll be awful, but I think that's what it is.
That's like what it symbolizes.
Yeah, that dark space that's just pulsating with the sparks. But we don't have the wind blowing and that feeling of like being pulled into it like a black hole.
Right. Because in that graphic, it even has the lines kind of like moving and changing around it, right?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's, I don't know. When I saw that image, I think of this scene, this dark circle of darkness, right? That just terrifies.
Yeah, that's good.
Jessica opens her eyes and sees Paul staring back at her. I think this is like in the bodily present. They're no longer in the back subconscious. They're bodily here, right? Jessica opens her eyes and sees Paul. That stare is still back at her. She's still holding the hand, but that like terrible sharing is now gone. It's over. She quieted her trembling and Paul released her hand. Chani like staggered back and was about to fall down until was caught by Chani. Chani's like watching this.
Jessica fell back.
Sorry, yeah, Jessica fell back.
Okay.
Jessica fell back, caught by Chani. And Chani at this point is like, what just happened?
What is happening?
What happened right there? I have no idea. So she like is looking at Jessica holding her saying, Reverend Mother, what is wrong? And Jessica just whispers, tired, so tired. Again, this does not help Chani at all in what's happening. So Chani just leans Jessica back into the cushion. And then Chani asked Paul if he'd really seen the water of life. Like, hey, did you actually do the thing? Did you do it? And Jessica could only whisper, yes, seen. Jessica is still in like a mental fog. Her mind is still trying to find its footing.
Right.
Like Frank calls it like this, which I think is really good. It was like stepping onto solid land after weeks of being at a heaving sea. Like trying to just stand up straight. And the others in her back of her brain, were also starting to wake up.
Yeah.
Those other people. And they all go, what was that? Where was that place? What happened?
Wow. I read that in like such a cooler voice.
I like to think of a really with just in the back of your brain. It's always like, what happened over there?
What was that? Gee whiz.
It's probably way cooler than that, but in the corridors of your mind and history of all these lived experiences, I'm sure they'd be like, what was that? What was that place? What happened? Like that, something like that.
Yeah.
But it was way funnier in my brain of just what? Who? Like there's an earthquake in an old building and everyone pops their head out the window. Like, what? What? You spilled my tea. What happened?
Did you feel that, Norbert?
Yeah, that's exactly it. No, honey, I didn't feel anything. Go back to watching TV. So Jessica is reeling from this moment, trying to find her footing, trying to find herself again. And through all this realization, she realized that her son was the Kwisatz Haderach, the one who could be at many places at once. He was the Bene Gesserit dream, finally fulfilled.
Yep.
And this fact gave her no peace.
Fair.
Like, holy shit, what did we just do? And why is my son this person? Why did I train him all that time?
Right. She did this.
Right. She defied the order and did the thing, and she just happened to be the one that was perfect, and all the genetics lined up, and clink, out pops Paul Atreides, the Kwisatz Haderach, one generation before he was supposed to pop up.
Yep.
And Chani is still majorly confused. What? Right? Jessica at this point only whispered, yes, seen. So she's like, what happened? Jessica could only shake her head. And then Paul, laying on the floor, staring at the ceiling, spoke. There is in each of us an ancient force that takes and an ancient force that gives. A man finds difficulty facing that place within himself where the taking force dwells. right?
A man finds little difficulty.
Yes. So a man can take. There's a taking force and a giving force. A man can take and a woman can give. Right?
Mhm.
And that's what they do really well. Right? There's almost impossible for the man to see into the giving force without changing into something else other than a man. The whole room is still frozen as Paul was talking. Paul cries out, "Do you understand me, mother?" Jessica just nods. Paul continues, "There are so ancient within us things that are ground into each of our separate cells of our bodies. We are shaped by such forces." This is like the force, like legitimately the Dune force here.
Right.
You can say to yourself, "Yes, I see how such a thing may be." But when you look inward and confront with the raw force of your own life unshielded, you see your own peril.
Gosh.
You see that this could overwhelm you. So this raw force of giving that is inside women, this is how I'm interpreting this. If they look into it too much, it overwhelms them with all of the possibilities that could be. So they don't go there to the future to see all that. They stay. So the greatest peril to the giver is the force that takes, and the greatest peril to the taker is the force that gives. Because you can easily be overwhelmed by both. So Jessica then speaks up. "And you, my son, are you the one who gives or the one that takes?" Like, what are you going to do in this?
What are you getting at right now?
What's happening? Paul just says, "I am at the fulcrum. I cannot give without taking, and I cannot take without..." Paul stops. He knows someone's listening, and he knows exactly where they are. And he looks to the right. What happened there, Evan?
Otopade, where's his name?
Othium.
Othium was coming in, right? He was like right outside the
Like the hangings.
yeah, and he came in. Paul stopped talking as he came in, but he knew that he had heard what was just being said.
Yeah, Paul knew that Othium was currently listening to him. Paul knew that that he would go run off and go tell everybody what he had just heard and seen.
Right.
Because he's probably listening to Paul talk like, "Holy shit, he's the one."
Right. And thus Othium is going to add to the crazy like the little things that Paul did became legendary like immediately. Imagine somebody spreading this, like
It would go over the entire planet and beyond. Like, this is the stuff of legend. It's here. But in this moment, Chani sees something different. This isn't just a regular thing. This is Paul's prescience.
Mm-hmm.
Paul looked into the future and saw this moment and called it out. So, yeah, Chani knew that Othium would speak to the others and the legend would start today, that the story of Paul Muad'Dib is not like other men, would spread like wildfire throughout the planet and beyond. There was no more doubt. Paul is a man, yet he sees through the water of life in the way of a reverend mother. He is the Wazan al-Ghaib. So Jessica asked the question that she's probably been begging to ask for a long time. Like, they haven't talked about the prescience thing. They just say, no, it's weird. Like, Paul kind of went off on that one night. And then she's like, I still don't know what's happening. So she finally asks, Paul, you have seen the future, Paul. Will you say sin? And of course, smart Paul, talking to his mom, not the future. I've seen the now.
I'm living in the now, Mom. Okay.
just get with it, Mom. It's not the future. It's the now. I've been seeing the future for far too long, and now I get the past. So I'm in the now. I see all things as they should be.
Right.
Mom.
So he's talking about like the real meta, like the everlasting now, like time is an abstract concept developed by carbon-based life forms to measure their own decay. I am above such a construct. I see all of everything. Right?
Yeah. Yes, that's it. That's 100%. Nailed it. He's
Yep.
the now. He sees every single path of the future and the past, right? This was his goal way back, to see whether make the prescient future look like the past.
Right.
That's what he's got.
Gosh.
Or working towards. He's now got both sides. He was working with only one hand before. Now he's got the other hand. So Paul kind of forces himself up in a seating position and tells the future, or currently the now, what's happening right now, and without having any information about this. He says, the space above Arrakis is filled with ships of the guild. Jessica could hear a tremble at the certainty in his voice. The Padishah Emperor himself is there, Paul said. He looked up towards space, which was more just like the top of the cave.
Yeah.
But he's looking up past the cave. He's trying to look at them. I see you. You're up there-ish. The Pasha Emperor is there with his favorite truthsayer, which is bum Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Muhammad from chapter 1.
What?
Yeah. You probably forgot that from chapter 3. So I just needed to bring that back up.
I fully forgot. I did not think of that. It said favorite truthsayer. I was like, okay, wonder who that is. And I just kept reading.
Yeah, okay. Perfect. Welcome to Reading Dune, where I get to those little things I get to pop up every now and again. All right, so the Emperor's up there with not just 1 legion or 2 legions or 3 legions of Sardaukar. He's got 5 legions of Sardaukar just chilling.
Fantastic.
And guess who else is there? The old fat Baron Vladimir Harkonnen is there. And right by him, we got our favorite Mentat Thufir Howat, who switched sides, the bastard.
Oh.
And
don't be so mean. Don't be so mean about Thufir. He's just confused, okay?
He's just old and got it wrong.
Yeah.
That's fine. He got outmented. All right. So, and above them, with them, above the guild is now every other ship from every other great house above, purely just waiting. Everybody's come to Arrakis, guys. We're all here.
Right. And just in the last chapter, we were like, oh, Paul is doing some great stuff, just took over. It's just Raban, and he's already given up. So this is going to be super easy. And then Paul lays that on us, that literally everyone is here. Everyone in the Imperium is ready to take him out. And he's just like, yeah, they're all up there. Yeah, they're just waiting. They're just waiting. They're just going to kill me.
Okay, can you tell me why they're all up there? Why are they all just sitting there waiting? So I imagine there's the planet Arrakis, right? He's in the middle, and then a ring around that is all of the guild ships,
right?
Because they won't let anybody down, right, or back up. So when we land, they're totally stuck,
right?
So guild has this barricade that's kind of happening, and above that is all these other ships just hanging out waiting,
right? They're waiting for the loot drop.
The first person that goes in, we're just gonna take as much fucking spice as we can and run out of here.
Yeah.
Power structure's about to change, boys. Spices up for grabs. So, Chani, now back to our poor, sweet, innocent, beautiful Chani. Come on. All she does is shake her head. When she's looking at Paul, Paul is gone. There's a strangeness to him. There's a flat tone in his voice. Not the way we've been reading it. There's a flat tone in his voice. The way he looked at things, he looked through her, and it filled her with awe. So I don't know if this is a mourning loss, my Paul is gone, or my Paul just hit God status. I don't know which one of the spectrum that's on.
Right.
So Jessica asked the question, if the guild is up there, why is everybody's up there? What are they waiting for? Paul says, for the guild's permission to land. The guild will strand anybody on Arrakis. So there's a blockade around them. And
Yeah,
Jessica said,
if they go down without permission, right? That's what he says.
yes.
Then he's like, well, you didn't ask nicely, so we're not picking you back up. You're stuck there.
Right. Have fun dying the very slow way. Hope you don't find a worm. Oh, here it's like, come on. Worm City. All right. So Jessica, so the guild is protecting us? Paul scoffs. Protect us. Like, oh, please. The guild itself caused this. The guild itself did this to itself. It spread tales about what we were doing here, and then they reduced the troop transport fees with a point where even the poorest houses are now waiting up there to loot us. So, like, the economy, the way they worked it, like they, with the decline, or there was like so much spice that they were buying for so long because they knew something was up. These bought spice and made fairs all go down, and so now everyone's just hanging out. That's just going to cause a giant war if things go wrong. And Jessica didn't doubt Paul. This was like the night in the tent that he saw future. Saw that I must go to the Fremen. There's a path of the Fremen. Paul took a deep breath. It's time. I'm to enact the plan that's always been the plan. Since day one's been the plan. We're going to blow up the planet. You want to come take this? We're just going to blow it up. So he says, Mother, you must change a quantity of the water for us. This way we can use it as a catalyst. Chani, go send scout troops to find a pre-spice mass. So women, you got your jobs. And he says, if we plant enough water of life at a pre-spice mass, do you know what will happen? Jessica measures out everything Paul is saying and is shocked. Paul says, the water of death. It would be a chain reaction going straight down. He takes his hand and points to the ground. It would spread death to all the little makers, killing a vector of the life cycle that includes the and the makers. They will come take this from us. We're going to blow everything up and kill the worm. We're going to kill everything. No more spice, no more nothing. No more way of getting this ever again. We're going to strand everybody here.
Right. Because he who can destroy a thing has the real control of it.
Yes. That's his whole methodology. Evan yells into his book. How does it make you feel knowing that the Baron's big plan is the one that Paul uses to get everyone back?
I don't know. I don't know how to feel.
Yeah. Yeah. Speak more about how you don't know how to feel.
I mean, it's like I'm still like Paul has not that deeply changed course, but it's starting to like feel yucky. You know what I mean?
Yes. Like this is the course that started when? When do you think he like got launched on this? He's been following the same path.
The box.
Yeah, since the box.
Right.
In chapter one. Yeah, he's been on this path. And now it starts to feel yucky. That's a good way of putting it.
Right.
How do you feel about Paul as a character right now?
I still really want to like Paul, and I think I still do like Paul, but also like I don't know what it feels like to be an extra dimensional, crazy, supernatural messiah person. I don't know what thought process comes, like in I don't know if you've seen this, but watch or read the graphic novel, but like Watchmen, you read Dr. Manhattan talking about stuff and you're like, oh my gosh, that makes a lot of sense, but it's like super grim,
Yes.
So I'm in this tension of like, I don't know how to feel. That's what I just unpacked. I don't know how to feel.
And you did a great job.
Thank you.
Because yeah, Paul is somebody that we like root for from the very beginning, right? He's kicking ass, he's taking names, doing the thing. And now like it just pains me to see like him become death like this.
Right. But also if the point is to turn Arrakis into a lush, beautiful country, what does the spice have to do with it?
Yeah.
Does that ruin the plan of turning Arrakis into a lush, beautiful paradise planet?
It actually makes it easier.
It all he's doing is like pulling the pin out of the Imperium.
When everyone's too scared to pull the pin. Has
Right.
been way too scared to pull the pin.
Right. And like this whole book has been about, I'm over the Imperium. You know, Leto was over the Imperium. It's like someone's got to do something to just like shut it down because it's not working anymore. Because ways change.
Ways change.
So I don't know. I'm still kind of on board with Paul, but it's getting grim. It's getting real grim.
Yeah. Yeah. No. He's doing what needs to be done. It's just scary how what's happening inside of him. This terrible like thing is emerging.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know what to do with that.
But it still feels like the flip side of the way that the Baron was talking about the same stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It feels like yes, they're using the same words, you know, like he who can destroy a thing has control of it. But the intention, right? Like the purpose of the words said by Paul versus the same words said by the Baron are different.
So you can do a bad thing with good intentions and it'd be okay.
I don't know. That is not a small enough question that Evan Diaz can answer it on the Reading Dude podcast.
Well, I mean, I'm glad that's the question. That right. Is like the thing we wrestle with here is, and yeah, you lined it up perfectly. Like, yeah, we want to believe that Paul is doing this with the right purpose.
Right.
We really do. We want that. We know that Atreides' sincerity for the best in humanity will cause us to keep going forward, and we cling hope to that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it also all depends on the bad thing.
It does.
You know?
It totally does.
Because if you're doing a bad thing to awful, horrible, murderous, conniving people, that's like not directly killing them or something. It's like, how bad is it? You know?
I mean, yeah, if you destroy the spice, the guild navigators would be out of a job. What happens if the spice gets destroyed? Yes, Arrakis would be easily a greener place for sure, right, with the sandworms being gone. Everyone would be trapped on Arrakis. The guild would be they'd have just their reserves left, right, until the interplanetary economic system would completely collapse.
Right. Because there's no other fuel.
None. This is it. And the Bene Gesserit use this for all of their religious stuff. And the Emperor has the most spice, so he's the most powerful. Like you would just get everything would just become destroyed.
Right.
There would be a wrecking either way. He's just saying, I have the bomb and I'll blow it. I'll do it. I'm not chicken. You want to go? Let's go. I'm the Duke of Arrakis. I'm Muad'Dib. I'll do the thing.
Gosh.
So Jessica asked, what's stopping the guild from coming down and like doing something, right? They've been buying like crazy. Why aren't that's the only thing they're doing? And Paul says that the guild saw this. They saw many possible futures and are currently freaking out because they can't find Paul with inside time. They're looking for him, but he's never there. And they know that Paul can actually destroy the spice, which means they're really freaking out. And so Chani's hearing all of this. She's hearing all of it, but is still shocked that what they're about to destroy their whole way of life with the worm and the spice. Cool. Okay, that's just mind-blowing blasphemy right there. Then she finds her voice and says, "What do you mean you see the now?" Can we go back to that real fast? I missed that. What do you mean you see now?
It should be like a capital N now.
Yes, you are seeing something else. Paul then just lays back down, closing his eyes, going inward, searching the spread out present, its limits extending into the future and into the past, holding on to the awareness with difficulty. He's trying to, it was all clear and it's starting to fade as the spice illumination began to fade. Right? He's like, okay, I got a limited amount of time. I still have the spice in my veins. Let's do something. Paul only said, "Go do as I command. The future is becoming as muddled for the guild as it is for me. The lines of vision are narrowing. Everything focuses here on where the spice is, where they're darn not interfered before. Because to interfere was to lose what they must have, but now they're desperate, and all paths lead to darkness." And that ends the chapter, ladies and gentlemen. I thought this was going to be a quick chapter, too. I was just blazing through it at the beginning. I was like, man, but here we are 51 minutes later. And
yeah, what do you mean? There's so much to talk about just in this one chapter. We just went off for like 10 minutes about like a phrase that Paul said, you know?
Okay, I got a question, Evan.
Yes.
What do you think about the giving and the taking?
I was slightly confused by it. I mean, I don't know. I can't say that I with any certainty that I fully understood what he was talking about. And also it felt a little antiquated. Does that make sense?
Like it felt
like it's
not stranger thinking, but older thinking.
Yeah, but like in our world, it sounds like an old guy in the 60s or 70s or whatever wrote that down with his understanding of gender norms and the way a man is and the way a woman is. You know, it's kind of like,
yeah, you definitely give that like the woman is the giver and the man just takes all the time, and the only way that they can be together is like if the taker can't give and the giver can't take and all this stuff. But then Paul is the guy that can do both,
right? And then, like, it makes sense in the story, and with like their culture, like the way that they understand the world and things. But when I read it, I was kind of like, I don't know. I don't know, Frank. Okay, boomer, you know?
Right. There's this idea, the primal forces of masculinity and femininity when they put them together, of the man that takes things and goes and conquers, and the woman that just gives life and makes babies. Like, you do feel that even in like the Bene Gesserit breeding program, and you do feel that in like the emperor patriarchal society, but you have this matriarchal society. And I guess the cool part is that like he's denoted that men like an prescience go to the future and women go to the past to like pull things now on how they work through stuff. Maybe that's what Frank is saying in the
that's
big picture.
Better. That's nicer, I think. I still don't think either of those natures are like specifically masculine or feminine. I mean, maybe generally, but I don't know. I'm also not a philosopher, so I can't, you know, I don't have the study to back up what I'm saying.
The cool part is that now Paul could see both the past into the present and the future. He sees it all at once. That's the cool part. But when I read that, I have to like, wait, the giver, and you have to like highlight giver, taker, man, woman. What's he trying to say here? How does this all work? I was like, okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
you gotta make a diagram to follow what he's talking about.
Yes. Okay. What's happening? Where? Yeah, somebody in the comments talks about Jungian concepts of balance and energy and the masculine and the feminine and how. And again, when did Jung? When was he? He was. Don't make me Google him right now.
Dude, I can't.
It was
I can't
before
even-
Frank. I'll tell you that.
I can't add anything to the conversation about Young.
You're doing.
I
Great.
refuse.
You're like I have not. I don't know. I don't know enough.
I'm not smart enough to say something correct about all of that, so I'm just going to not say anything.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yes. So far, Evan, has this been your favorite chapter? I feel like this is like we got the most spice high ever.
Yeah. At least a close second, but I can't think of what would be better than this chapter. So I haven't processed what just happened, even though we just read through it. I just read through it twice. You know?
There's so much, and there's a terrifyingness to this whole chapter with the Chani Jessica thing at the beginning and this awkward tension, and then you have the end where Paul is just death.
Yeah.
That whole thing coming together, and there's that like plus all of the quips back and forth, like everyone was just throwing it at each other.
Right. Yeah, it might be my favorite chapter. That was a really good one.
Oh my god. All right, well, yeah. And as an ending, Frank likes to leave us with a cliffhanger. And this one goes, right? Goes like the plan is set, go for it. The future is currently becoming muddy. Well, I need to make a decision before things I don't see anymore.
Right.
But all I know is that everything leads to darkness. Like Paul is like, he's trying to look for the light.
Right.
He's like, give me the one path. I will take the one path. Give me, okay, we're just going to do this.
Right.
We're just going to make decisions and hope for the best.
Right. And I just got to point out that all paths lead to darkness is about the most metal thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
All paths lead to darkness.
On that note, my friends, please stay spicy. Is there anything else, Evan, you need to say about this chapter? I don't want to.
No, there's nothing else that I can say.
Oh, well, thank you for processing with us as we learn the tragedy of Dune and the Kuzat Chatterickness of everything. Follow us on Twitter, Reading Dune, and email readingdune@gmail.com, and subscribe on YouTube if you're there. Thank you very much. And we're going to bye. Bye. Peace.